a lot of people wanted to know, if the player elects to bank their score, how do you remove the scoring dice? And then at the end of all of their decisions, how do you re-roll the remaining dice? So far, the way that I've thought about organizing mine is I've got a play turn method. I've got a turn score, which is all the points that accrue over the course of a turn. And I have a Boolean called turnover that keeps track of whether or not the turn is still active or whether or not it's ended. And then somewhere further along, you can have if statements that will check things that need checking to see if the turn is over. And when the turn should be over, we set them to true, so that way we'll stop looping. Inside the method, we're going to roll a certain number of die, 6, and then we're going to use those die values to get counts. And that's what this int array of counts is. And then we have if statements to check for particular scoring patterns. And if we have a particular scoring pattern, we ask the user if they want to bank them. We use a scanner to get their response. And then if they said yes, we add to the turn score. And here is the key moment when we should remove the dice. So there's two ways we could think about this. We could think about just using the counts array, because the counts array has all the same information as the original die rolls. It's just that we've combined them into counts. So instead of thinking about removing individual dice from our array list of 6 dice, I could think, all right, if it's got a single 4, I know that the 4th index of counts should have a 1 in it. And if I want to remove the record that we actually have that roll, I would just do this. I would say counts 4 minus minus, or I would set it to 0. And so we're not removing a die, we're removing our record of that value inside the counts array. That's actually kind of my favorite approach because I feel like it's going to end up being cleaner. A different thing you could do is you could say die values.remove, but if I say remove 4, see how it says index 4? That's not removing the number 4 from the list wherever it occurs. That's saying remove the 4th number from the list itself. So if my die values were, let's say I rolled all 1s, remove 4 would be saying, let's remove this 4th 1. But let's actually pretend my die values look like this. I got 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 1. What I want to say is I want to say remove this number 4 wherever it happens. And the way that you do that is you have to make a new integer rather than int. So if I make a new integer object whose value is 4, now that's going to actually remove the number 4 from the list. Okay, I was just reading this. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a slight cross out here. I have been informed that this pattern is deprecated, which means that it's been marked for removal in future versions of Java. So that same comment said that the way that we like to do it now is integer.value of 4. Java is a language that just has a lot of syntactic constructions like this, so you just have to look them up. Okay, so that's how you can remove individual values from the list. But like I was saying before, I think that it's going to be a cleaner pattern never to look at your individual die rolls again. Just keep track of everything inside counts. Okay, so let's pretend that we get to the end of everything, where the game isn't over, so we go back up to the top. How do I re-roll the remaining dice? Well, here I'm rolling 6 dice no matter what, which is definitely not what I want to do. So let's create, whenever you need a certain piece of information, like how many dice are active, it's nice to have a variable for that. So let's create active dice as 6, and then when it first starts, we'll do active dice. But then at the very bottom here, before we repeat the turn, the number of active dice is going to be whatever the sum of all the numbers inside the counts array is. Let's think about why that is for a minute. So let's say these were my die rolls, these are my counts array. Notice that right now, if I add up all the numbers, they add up to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they should, because this is counting one number per original die. So let's pretend that when I decide to remove die, I'm actually going to subtract from the counts. So let's say that we have a single 4, and the player decides that they want to bank that. What I'd do is I'd subtract this 1 to make it 0. And now you'll notice if I add up all the numbers in the list, there's only 5 numbers. And that reflects the fact that we removed the one die that was the single 4. If they decided to remove the 3 of a kind of 3s, we would change this 3 to 0. And then again, if you think about the sum would add up to 3 because there's only 3 remaining dice. So all we really need to do is say something like this. Active dice equals sum of counts. How do I find the sum of the counts array? Let's make a method for that. And now inside this method, you can have a sum variable, and you can add into it as you loop over all of the counts. So everything that I've shown you here, of course, is not the only way to do it. There's usually dozens and dozens of different ways to approach writing a program. But for me, this does feel like a relatively clean decomposition for how to think about these problems. I hope it was helpful.